Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a phenomenal show coming right up with our special guest, Lily Sanders. And Lily's here today to talk to us about her new book, Truth to Triumph, a spiritual guide for finding your truth. Lily's life experiences, adversity, talent, sense of humor, and intense compassion has gifted her a purpose to write. She influences and coaches others with her tremendous experience and background. As a magazine columnist, Lily has inspired thousands while writing with passion, purpose, and power. So let's welcome to the show, Lily.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Oh, what a joy it is to have you here, and I just loved your book. I mean, and you can just tell from the moment you get it, with you on the cover, dancing down the street, how much fun it's going to be.
Yeah, that actually was an interesting shot that wound up being the first shot that was taken just for lighting, and it wound up being the cover of the book, actually. Isn't that funny?
Well, it's always fun to see how these things come together, and it was so beautifully written. And for our listeners that are new to you and your story, I'd love for you to share with us what even started you on this path.
Okay, well, what started me on this path was actually my past. When I was growing up as a little girl, I had many dreams and aspirations. I always wanted to be a dancer and an actress and entertaining and performing on stage and in front of the camera. And I actually did realize a lot of those dreams by the age of 23. As my life and, as people would read in Truth to Triumph, took, maybe a 180 pivot onto what I call the path left of center, I really went through a lot of different trials and tribulations in my life. And just a little bit of background, I was raised in a domestically violent home. My dad I had a violent father and a very timid mom. And so there were a lot of challenges to overcome. I did have my tenacity and drive. Ballet class became my sanctuary, and that was the one place I was allowed to go outside of school. So that became my sanctuary. And, pushing through that and becoming a professional dancer and an actress on stage here in New York was a triumph all in itself. However, I have to tell you, Marianne, once I was on my way to what I felt was the purpose my purpose at the time, I have to tell the listeners that that's basically when I took this 180 pivot onto, that path. And that was being involved with, highly unconscious relationship, a marriage, and then into a second marriage. And I had a child and raised a child after divorce, and I built 3 extremely successful franchises of my own. But listen to this. I did it all behind a veil of silence. And that is not the Oscar that I was dreaming of. That was not the Oscar when I was 3 years old that I was dreaming of. So that's the sad part. But in all seriousness, it really, I always say it took me not 1 but 2 tall buildings to fall on my head before I had this awakening, if you will. So, these were all of these things that I went through, my experiences, they were really all amazing life lessons that got me to where I am today, which is in a great place. And that's kind of my long winding road to how I got to where I am now. And so now I still love, being on stage and on platforms, but I love teaching people how, to really love themselves. I love teaching people how to really take their power and really and find that magic within them, so that they can really walk in this, path of knowing, one present step at a time. That's one of my things is, really to just kind of find that dormant potential within you and let it go, let it rise.
And how important is that? And I think a lot of people can relate to your story, because whether we grew up in an abusive home or a very strict home or whatever the case is, I know with my era, it was a lot of kids are supposed to be seen, not heard. And so it was a little bit different to, be a kid and have a voice than it is today, I would think.
Yes, no doubt. And it doesn't, and I always say this, even in my book, Truth to Triumph, it's really not about the stories. It's not about me. It's not about the stories, but it's what comes from the stories. What I do is I take, once I take all the hurt and out of the stories, what's left is the essence of really the potential to learn and grow from. That's where you see that portal into a life where you can use that as a catapult to get to a better place. So we all, honestly, and I say this in Truth to Triumph, we all have pain. Every one of us have had pain in our past, in our current life, but the difference is, and what I love people to know and listeners to know, is that we can either use that pain and turn it into suffering, or we can use that pain and turn it into peace. Of course, we want the latter. We want to turn it into peace.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it's interesting when you look at your journey that way. It really puts things in a different perspective, because it's not just kind of bumbling around and things are happening to us. It's choosing to have peace.
Yes, of course, no doubt. In fact, I was going to originally name the book "Don't Let This Happen to You," but I said no. I want this to be more of a serious book, because I felt that if I didn't write this book, Truth to Triumph, everything that I went through, all of the pain and the suffering, would all go in vain. So knowing that there was a purpose in all of it, to help others avoid, similar situations or change their current unhappy life situation. Any listeners that might be listening that, they feel like they're in this unhappy situation now, is really what gave me the motivation to write it. And, I also did feel a strong pull to be a voice for those people that are in a bad situation, that have not only have not found their voice, but really have not found their truth, hence Truth to Triumph. So initially I was thinking that I should title it, that "Don't Let This Happen to You," but then that's when I got serious, because the reality of some of my stories I tell are so raw that I would never want anyone to go through what I did, or would I want anyone to put another person through what I experienced, for that matter. So, this is really for everyone, not just people that feel like they're in that realm of, victim, but also those people that really feel like they're actually not leading a life that is really very loving. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It makes perfect sense, because, usually as we go down our path and as we're learning more about who we are as a person and how we want to show up in the world, sometimes we're the victim in situations that, people have done things that have wronged us, that we can turn our feelings around about that. And sometimes we're the person doing that to other people, and because we just don't know any better.
Absolutely. I love what you just said. I'm a very good listener. You said how we show up in the world. And that's exactly right. We really are responsible to really clean up our own house. Meaning, what is the energy field, that's surrounding us, that we're living in? And we're responsible for that. And we're responsible for our actions, and we're, responsible for how we treat others and how we treat ourselves. Of course, it's always about self-love first and then expressing that love. But we definitely loved how you said, we show up, in this world, and we show up in every single situation. And that's a fantastic way of putting it, that self-inquiry of, who am I in this place, in this moment, in this situation? Who am I in this life? Because really, a lot of what I do is really learning your truth, and your truth is what's absolute and pure about you, which it's independent, if you will, from any life situation. So I'd love listeners to know that are listening today, who you are and what you are, and the essence of you, your truth, is not the label that is on you, that you put on yourself or others. You're not your mommy, you're not your mother, you're not your father, you're not your family name, you're not your bank account, you're not the car you drive, you're not your career. you are independent from any life situation. So, when we start to begin to see ourselves through the eyes of the soul and we start to live at soul level, life becomes so much more magical and it makes so much sense. And then all of the minutiae in life situations, you could just say, so what? It really doesn't matter. It's not really important, You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, because it does put things in perspective. I mean, because when you have that, and it's interesting, getting to a place of inner peace and self-love, that can be a journey within itself, because a lot of times, at least in my experience, it's not really easy to get there. We can forgive everybody and anybody, for things that have happened, but when it comes to ourselves, we're like, ooh, gosh, I don't know about that,
Oh, yeah.
I love how you approach it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's huge. And, forgiveness is one of the, I have this e-course that I have 7 gateways to triumph, and love is the first gateway. Forgive is the second gateway. I mean, forgiving is the first step for healing in the body, the mind, the spirit. And when we can truly do that, and we can clearly see a healthy, happy self, and we can vibrate with that frequency of having this as our birthright, then we can heal. And we need to heal, not just in the body. We have emotional healing, mental healing, spiritual healing. All of it is what makes us up.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times people forget that because they get so focused on the physical. Like, ooh, I gotta, fix my eating, or my hair or my teeth, or whatever the thing is that they have the angst with, but they kind of forget the whole spiritual and mental part as well.
Oh, exactly. And that's a whole nother show if you want to do, Marianne. Right? I mean, I believe that, honestly, like, that healing, it really starts from that energy, that energy of love that's lacking in your body. It all starts with that. All of the energy in our body that is full of fear, that's bringing us pain. All that energy that in our energy field that has all that those emotions of guilt, disappointment, hurt, whatever, anxiety, whatever it is. All of those things bring us pain. They bring us physical pain. So, we really have to start with healing the spirit, healing, emotionally. And that all starts with love, and that all starts with forgiveness. I'm not sure that you can have one without the other. To be honest with you, love and forgiveness go hand in hand. And that has to start with yourself, self-love, and also forgiving yourself, letting go of any kind of, self-blame, all of that. It's all connected.
Well, Dina, I've got a fabulous question for you, and I think a lot of times people feel like they get stuck on the forgiveness part. What are, and I know that you coach with people, you work with people all the time in regards to this, what would be some advice you would give somebody that just doesn't feel like they can get to forgiveness? Okay, so first, what I would advise listeners is really understand that much of our pain and all of our internal struggles, they come from non-forgiveness. And not just toward others, but for oneself. A huge discovery for me was that I stored a lot of self-blame and self-judgment for all of my disasters in my life situations. And I didn't know why, and it didn't really matter. The only thing that mattered was that I came to a point of realization that there was something inside that needed letting go of. And any listeners today, you might be at that point. And there was this black ball of conflict, if you will, kind of clogging my right to feel love and my right to feel happy. And I just didn't love myself and didn't feel worthy of love. Only at the time, I didn't know it. I thought I did. But outwardly, because outwardly I appeared one way, but inwardly it was quite another. So when I really, really dug down deep and I saw my internal dialogue, which I talk a lot about that in Truth to Triumph, that it was so negative about myself, and of course a lot of that was because that was fed to me by my ex-husband, I became really, really aware, acutely aware
of all of the self-blame and all the judgments that I had been storing up on myself. And of course, this was largely to blame, largely because of my inability to really ignore or negate, what unconscious people in my life path were feeding me, were feeding my brain. I was believing it. You tell someone something long enough to begin to believe that. So the good news is, for all you listeners, that once you recognize that there's a blockage, then we can remove it. But we need to first go to the core. What's fueling, this struggle, and who's in charge of it all. We've already learned, in everything that we read, and especially in Truth to Triumph, I talk about, knowing your who, before you find out, your what. But the big thing is, what's really fueling the struggle is the absence, and that absence is love, and that absence is self-love. So, the one in charge of it all is your thinking mind. So I like to tell listeners that, the mind tells you to fear, the mind tells you to hold grudges, to be mad, to be angry, and so on and so forth, to draw conclusions, right, to compare, ignore, suppress, blame, all of that. And in many cases, your mind's going to convince you to do this with yourself. If your mind is telling you to do it with other people, trust me, it's telling you to do it with yourself as well. So, there lies the blockages that are robbing your peace. And so this is where I teach and coach people how to take their power back and turn it around to exactly where they're destined to be, in the exact divine timing in their life, in self-love, aligned with the universe, aligned with God. And if someone doesn't believe in God, or they, whatever you want to call it, you've got to do that internal work. There's a source there, and it really depends on each individual. But it's all going to come down to self-love. And when we have something inside that we need to let go of, like non-forgiveness, it's going to come down to that one thing, one question, the same question that seems to be at the top of our mind's bucket list, and that's, who am I? In fact, I have a whole chapter on that in Truth to Triumph. Who am I? It's one of the most powerful spiritual questions that really we go to in our heart, even in meditation, and that one answer to that one question, that will bring you home. And when I speak of home, I speak of love, because that's who we are. We are made of love, from love, because we are love.
That's just so beautiful, and I'm so glad that you're sharing that with us. And for people who are, let's say they're in really desperate situations where maybe they're just realizing that the situation they're in is abusive or not the healthiest situation for them, what type of advice would you give them? Okay, well, the first advice that I would give them is to peel off the victim label and take your power back. And if you are in a highly volatile situation, then which is possibly violent or very highly abusive, then you may need to firmly tell someone to back off, or you'll have them removed. So you've got to peel that victim label off and then take that action to take your power back. Second is, if it is highly volatile, you're going to have an exit plan. You've got to. We can't sit and just wait and hope. We have to start to take action. Again, it goes back to that taking responsibility for our own lives, taking responsibility for our actions, and taking responsibility for also what we allow in our lives and in our path. So that means if in this type of situation, you have to have an exit plan. You may have to run for your life, and that's what it may come down to. But that's your race to freedom. And that's the door back home. And always when I speak of home, I speak of love. So, have a plan. Meaning a trusted friend, a family member's place where you can run to, have things already packed up there for you, license, passports, birth certificates, cash, credit cards, spare car keys, important telephone numbers, because probably your cell phone's going to be smashed up by this person. That's what happened to me. So if you have children, you also have to have their book bags, their school books, uniforms, clothes, whatever.
their passports, their birth certificates. Many times your abuser will go to your children or your pets to get to you. Again, also that happens to me. So you have to have their things packed as well. And by all means, never, ever, ever alarm the children. You have to stay present. You have to be calm. You have to be the parent, the adult. No matter how traumatized you are, just tell them you're taking care of everything and that you love them and that you're making everything safe for them and that everything will be okay. And really stress that. We always want to enforce a sense of love and safety for children, always. And the third piece of advice would you've got to call the authorities, and you've got to call them immediately. Always call the authorities. They have your back. It may not seem like they, like you feel like you can trust them or anyone, but you can. Trust them to protect and trust them, to help you, and they will. They will.
Well, that's such important advice, and we're also going to be having the link here for if someone feels that they are affected by domestic violence. We'll have information here where they can click on that and get more information from the national resource. And
wonderful.
That'll help them as well.
Yeah.
The
Coalition of Domestic Violence is very good.
Yeah, and it's so important to have this information because a lot of times because I've had friends that were in these situations. I actually know someone personally who was in a very dangerous situation, and removing herself from that took a lot. It took a lot of strength and a lot of courage, and she had to really plan. So, talking about the things that you're talking about is so important, but it allows people to go, gosh, you know what, I can do this.
Yes, you can do this. And look, I would like listeners to know, forget about thinking that, what does tomorrow bring if I leave, and, what if he comes back? And look, you've got to stop fearing, and you've got to start living. And when I say living, you've got to start bringing love into your life. And fear is not going to be your path anymore. You need to come into love, and you need to, loving yourself, honoring yourself, respecting yourself, and also teaching this to your children is so key. Believe it or not, you're doing the best thing ever by teaching your children that hitting is a deal breaker. Yelling and screaming and disrespecting, these things can be worked on, but hitting is a deal breaker. And many, many, many times you're going to see abuse, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. And I had more healing that I had to overcome from the emotional abuse that I had gone through. And again, that's what keeps you in that suffering mode. We want to be in the love zone, everyone. You want to be in the love zone, and you want your children to be in the love zone. So, don't fear. Call the authorities. You can always, get to the, Coalition of Domestic Violence. The numbers don't come through on a phone, so no one can track who you're calling. Everything is taken care of for you, and I promise you, everything is going to be better. It always, always is when you take the choice to love. Everything turns out better. It's like the sun will come out tomorrow. It's so true. It's so true. It always does.
Isn't that the truth? Well, and a lot of times I think when people are in these type of situations, it feels like it's going to go on forever, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
There is a light. And you know what's really interesting? In light of how we're speaking right now, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, yes. But what I typically found when speaking to other people that are in this victim role of domestic violence, which, by the way, is not just, again, I'm going to stress, domestic violence is not just physical. It's also financial. It's also some women are afraid to leave because their husbands have them financially, controlled. It's also very mental, very emotional, and but anyway, I typically tell them that there is no light there is no end of the tunnel. The time is now, because they need to take action now while they still have a piece of their spirit still alive. Because what happens is, once you spiritually die in a situation and in a relationship, it's very, very hard to come back. And for me, that's what it took for me. When I finally could not stand the suffering anymore is when I finally stood up for myself. And I love people to know that you don't have to wait that long. That the time is now.
Well, and your book, Truth to Triumph, really does give people a roadmap on how to get there, regardless what the situation is. They're able to kind of go, gosh, you know what? She went through all this horrible stuff. I'm going through some horrible stuff, or life is really, I feel like I'm, kind of getting kicked when I'm down. I can go ahead and still make it through.
Yes, absolutely. No doubt. And, I'd like to really inspire everyone to really, again, just find that magic within them. It's in there. They just really, really, everyone's got that magic. It just needs to be unlocked. I actually call myself a locksmith now. I call myself a locksmith. Locksmith to the heart. And that's been my, my little title lately that I started, because what I realized was that, I helped people really unlock the door to one's heart and awaken their dormant potential. So when there's blockages in there that are stopping you from living your higher self, from living your fullest potential, I could definitely help people with that, and so could my book. And I really encourage people to definitely come visit me on my website and definitely contact me and email me.
Well, you might call yourself the locksmith, but I know that expertise calls you the best life coach in New York. So,
Yes, I know. That was quite an honor. One of the top, I think it was the top 10 or something like that. Yes, thank you.
Yes, of course. Well, we are going to pause here for a quick break. We've been talking to Lily Sanders about Truth to Triumph. We're going to be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge, teaching beyond conventional wisdom. Her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special, when you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly freeing place. Here's where their lives were forever changed, and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 123 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
There are nearly 2 million Americans living with amputation. Many live right here in San Antonio. Becoming an amputee can be scary, frustrating, isolating, but there's no reason to feel alone. The San Antonio Amputee Foundation is here to help support you and guide you toward resources such as home and car modifications and even prosthetic limbs. For more information or to make a donation, visit saamputee.org. We'll help you live a full, active life, one step at a time. San Antonio Amputee Foundation, healing limbs, hearts, and souls.
back to Moments with Marianne. I'm so excited. We're still here with Lily Sanders talking about her book, Truth to Triumph. So Lily, I mean, your book is so packed with so much information. One of the things I loved were generational blessings. So what are those and why would we use those?
Okay, so I am all about breaking the mold for generational blessings. And I believe, in my view, it's a parent's responsibility to show children love, honor, and respect in all that we do so that they can experience it for themselves. If we can do this one by one, Marianne, we can change lives. We need to start promoting values as human beings, which can be universal regardless of the life situations that we're in, our race, religion, any belief systems, anything like that. We can promote these values, and this is how we can manifest and create generational blessings. And what are generational blessings? It is actually choosing blessings for your children's generation, their children's generation, their children's generation, and so on. It's breaking the mold that you were in and that you came from in your past. So we are human beings, right, whose purpose is always here to love, and this is why we are here. And remember, we're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, and we all know this at this point in 2018. So we need to teach our children love through experience, not through language. I talk about this in Truth to Triumph. And what do I mean by that is that quagmire vocabulary is really so limiting and puts us in a prison. And when you allow experience to be your teacher, then you're opening up the door to infinite possibilities of growth. And you and your children, before when I was talking about, Marianne, that we really need to start living life through the eyes of the soul, we're doing things and acting out at soul level, that also means that you and your children are equal souls. And it is, like you said, Marianne, it is the opposite the way we were raised. You know, it was, you know, you do it, why? Because I told you so. You know, that was kind of the way, that was our era. And really, though, when you're looking at life through soul level, you and your children and the person next door and the homeless man on the street are equal souls. Truly you are. And are in this world to expand beyond the vocabulary of self that you were taught. This is part of the rewiring, if you will. You need to identify your natural self. That's what we need to do. And again, like I said before, you're not your mother, you're not your father, you're not your past life situation. So if there are any listeners here today that have been exposed to violent acts of abuse growing up and they see it today as normal or quote-unquote okay, then you're going to need to rewire. And because this behavior is not okay. And like I said before, hitting is a deal breaker. Putting down and diminishing, someone that is supposed to be, is maybe your child's parent is not okay. Putting down and diminishing someone that, you claim to love is not okay. The fact that you experience this in your upbringing does not mean it's acceptable behavior. So the goal for you will be to break the pattern. And in doing so, this is how you will learn to communicate with love as you speak the truth in love. And I talk about this in Truth to Triumph. Using our hands to hit is not an expression of love. Hands are to be used righteously, to comfort, to serve, to heal. And if you find yourself in a circumstance where those old patterns begin to, emerge, then you can choose to walk away in silence until you're able to return back to a conscious state of presence. You can always walk away. If you're on the phone, you can always hang up the phone. There's a lot of choices that you can take that are the peaceful choice. In fact, choice, that's like another gateway to triumph in my 7 Gateways to Triumph e-course is choice. Because situations, not only, they don't always turn perfect in our life, right? But the choice to have peace in a situation is always there. And if you have peace in a situation, then it truly is perfect. So we always need to take that choice for peace. And so, once you do that, the point is the conscious shift that you have to take that must be made, you've got to take that conscious shift in order to break the mold for generational blessings. And your children need to be taught how to do this. It's our responsibility to teach them how to break that mold. And the children, after all, they're our future. Right? I mean, the children are our future. They're our future. They're our future teachers, right?
They're our future teachers. They're our future voters. They are our innovators. And what I love, and just kind of wrap back around to the generational blessings, is really giving people permission to do that rewiring, to create these new rituals, or the new, whatever it is. It could be like getting together on Friday nights for pizza, whatever the thing is, movie night. It's being able to do that and put really positive actions in place so that they're not repeating the old ones that are harmful.
Exactly. And a lot of that is, that rewiring is really reframing the mind. And what's interesting is, and if I can just even go further than that, is tomorrow is only made up of one substance, Marianne, and that's the present moment. I'm going to repeat that for all the listeners. Tomorrow is made up of one substance, the present moment. And what do I mean by that? If you're managing everything in the best way that you possibly can in the present moment, in the here and now, right now, that's the best thing that you could do for your happier tomorrow. And this is part of the reframing our minds to feel fulfilled and happy today, instead of seeking this happier tomorrow, instead of seeking that light at the end of the tunnel, if you will. Because what we do today is really paving the path for our tomorrow. Don't seek happiness and fulfillment in the world of form. It's not there. It's all impermanent. Even happiness is impermanent, and that's why we need to practice happiness every moment of the day. We have to put that into practice. Happiness is in the here and now, and there are enough conditions, for happiness to be found in the here and now. And we have a divine appointment to enter this here and now. And the question is, are you ready? Because when we miss this divine appointment, we miss life.
And is that what you mean by saying that, there are things that block us from being able to just have that personal development, that spiritual development that we want?
Yes, because it's the unwillingness to let go. And again, I'm going to go back to that word fear, that it's all fear. It's letting go of fear. And all the variables that come with fear is hurt, anger, grief, all the unhappy stories. Those are the blockages. The blockages is the unwillingness to let go of the fear. And it's all about letting go of fear and letting in love, right? Because love can't house fear. So remember, when we hold on to those unhappy stories in our life, we hold on to fear. We hold on to ego, the fear in the mind that's telling us that's feeding us that fear, and the identification with everything that we fear. And that holding on allows ego to take over, and the only thing gained from all of that is going to be suffering. And this took me decades to learn. This is one of the reasons why I loved writing Truth to Triumph, because I don't want people to go through all the suffering and wait decades to learn it. I'd like them to learn it now and just kind of start loving your life now. I'm having happiness now.
Well, and some people go decades and never learn it.
Oh, this is true. And that's also very sad. Yeah. Very, very sad.
People to make those transitions. Well, so we talked about fear, we've talked about forgiveness, and we're not going to go through all of it because, of course, people need to pick up their own copy, Truth to Triumph. But what are some of the other blockages that you typically see when you're working with people that's like, gosh, this is a common thing that's coming up all the time?
Okay, common thing are, again, elements of fear. Is as far as in business, one of the major blockages is what if, what if, which again is fear. Another major blockage is they just keep living in the old story. They just can't let go of something that has happened. And that is so debilitating. They're just stuck. They're trapped in these old stories. and they just keep creating their own suffering. Look, suffering serves no purpose other than to make us unhappy. And, look, we all know, we see it, we read it, we've lived it. Suffering's the number one cause for disease and even death. So why the heck would we want to go there? When you store those unhappy stories, they keep playing in your mind over and over and over again. It's like this broken record, and you never get to the next to the next beat or the next the next phrase or the next lyric. But and you never heal, and you never breathe in this beauty and the love that you really can have in this happiness in the here and now that we're talking about. So the big thing is the big blockages are living in those old stories and not letting them go. And I always tell people, be aware, first of all, that you're holding on to it. And then you can just say, when you're aware that you're holding on to it, you can actually look at it, speak to it, do whatever it is, even if you think you're nuts, talk to it. You could tell it, you have zero power over me. You are not who I am. You are just an old story. But conversely, just because you don't talk about a story, this is what I find with some clients, just because they don't talk about it doesn't mean that they've let it go either. In fact, what I found is that many of us have volumes of stories that are conveniently packed and stacked in these bookshelves of what I call the mental warehouse that we reach for every single time. Every time we choose to suffer, it's like, oh yeah? Well, I'm just going to bring this out, and then I'm going to really suffer. All of a sudden, when we've forgotten our truth, we suffer. We feel pain. We feel hurt. We agonize. We grieve. We grieve way longer than we need to grieve. But when we let go of those stories we love, and that's how we can generate feelings of love and joy and understanding and really release those blockages that really stop us from really excelling. When we clear those blockages, and by the way, there are layers of blockages. We've got to start hitting them one at a time, and eventually, when you feel clear, even your eyes look clear. People will say, "Gosh, you look really great today." You will know because your eyes even look clear. People will notice. There'll be this light. There'll be this light almost emanating around you, like an aura, if you will. Your energy field will actually be magnified. People will actually sense it, and they won't even be aware that they're sensing that, especially if they're not really in that spiritual, and they're like, something about that person is really, really very cool, And that's usually what
it's like, hey, they just have this, you hear that a lot with, kind of like when people say this to expecting mothers. It's like, oh, you're glowing. But it's just that connection that they have.
Absolutely. Exactly. Same feeling. Exactly. Put perfectly, Marianne.
Well, I have to tell you, I really appreciated your book. I mean, from start to finish, it was just so informative, and it was so honest. And it had, ways that people can really make changes in their life today, which, a lot of times you get people who have gone through tough situations and are looking to make changes, and they're just not able to grasp the help that they're looking to do that. And I felt like your book really, really accomplished that.
Thank you. Yeah, I tried to go full circle where at the beginning I first talked about, 3 things that we need to do: love, forgive, and contribute. And then I kind of tie that in toward the end, where I say, love is, and how can I forgive, how can I contribute? So I really tried to tie that in so that people could use that, again, not just about the stories, but they can use it as a tool. They can kind of read through it from beginning to end, and then maybe put little sticky notes in there, or maybe highlight some areas or fold back pages. Then when they've read it to the end, then they can go back. I suggest people, they go back and they revisit those places that either they didn't understand or that it resonated with them and they wanted to look deeper into that, or maybe they wanted to understand more. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally get that, because when you read the book once, you get a different level of understanding. The information that you need at that moment kind of is what your soul needs, and when you go back and you read it again, it's like you're getting a whole new layer of information.
Yeah, you'll just keep picking up different things, because it gets a little intense. So you'll just keep picking up different things each time. each time, you read through it. Absolutely. Exactly at the time that your soul is needing that information. And that's exactly right. Perfectly put.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you just did such a beautiful job writing it, and I appreciate how brave and courageous you were and honest in sharing your story with us, because it just makes such a positive impact on the lives of so many people, and so I applaud you for writing Truth to Triumph.
Thank you. I appreciate that. There's some things that I put in there. I struggled during the editing part. There were some things I took out and some things I left in, and of course I had to be very sensitive, toward also, some stories, and I had to be sensitive toward my family members. And while I was writing the book, my father died. There was a lot going on. It was crazy. There was a lot. So then that went into the book. Yeah, then that went into the book. So it really, I didn't. You don't plan that. It took me 3 years to write Truth to Triumph, and during that time, my dad died, and of course there were parts in that book about my dad. Then when he died, so I put that part in. So you can't make this stuff up. It's life happens. So I just had to go in the moment with it. So it's all in there. It's all in there. Yeah.
Well, and the good thing is for the listeners that are going through similar situations, they'll gain a great understanding from that. And so that kind of leads me to my next question. Because you talk about inner peace, and for a lot of people, that's right up there with the unicorn. It's like, that's a cute little mythical animal that I'm never going to see. And so, on that journey to inner peace, is it a day-by-day process? Is it you reach the finish line and all of a sudden you've got this enlightenment and you've got inner peace? How was it for you?
Interesting question. When we have to practice keeping that inner peace every day, and that's done by staying in a state of love, for sure. Now, inner peace is always going to come from love, and inner peace is going to come from, when people ask me what's peace, I say it's the end of suffering. So when you are in a state of love, and you're letting go of all of the garbage, you're letting go of suffering, and so peace is the end of suffering. And truly, when you're not suffering, then you have inner peace. And so no matter what the situation is, and this is really important for listeners to understand, no matter what you're going through, and I say this in a couple of spots in Truth to Triumph as well, the situation may still be pretty lousy. However, you can walk through that situation with a sense of inner peace, and it will make a world of difference. A world of difference. Because you're going to get to the same thing, at the same time anyway, whether if you're in a situation, with a position at work where there's a situation at work, or if you're in a situation in your home life where, or if you're in a court situation, a court appearances, you have to go through that. You have to go through the situation and get through the circumstance that's at hand, but you don't have to go through it suffering. You don't have to go through it angry. You don't have to go through it with this immense headache. You don't have to go through it shaking from head to toe. You have the choice to go through it with peace. So when you end the suffering, you have true inner peace, and that way you can get through anything. The bottom line is that you maintain the inner peace in all that you do, and especially if you're a parent, and especially if you're someone who is a manager or an owner or a CEO at work where people are looking up to you. You need to maintain that inner peace through all of it, and you need to have and really shoot for peaceful outcomes, so that the people below you that answer to you, they can feel peace as well. Your children, they can feel peace as well. The person online, they can feel peace as well. in the grocery store. Every single situation that you can possibly think of, you've got to go. You've got to make that choice for peace in that situation. Otherwise, there's a disconnect, and that disconnect is going to bring you right into suffering.
Back into the suffering. Well, and I'm so glad that you broke that down for us, because, a lot of times people are like, well, what's inner peace? And, I'm feeling like I'm a little out of it right now, or kind of relaxed. So is that it? It's
the end of suffering. Peace is the end.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And then people will say, well, what does that mean, the end of suffering? Well, okay. Right now you're feeling unsettled. You're not feeling peace about something. And so that is leaving you in suffering mode. You're either feeling anxious, you're feeling angry, you're feeling hurt, you're feeling, depressed. All of that is suffering. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So, once we experience self-love, which is essential for inner peace, then we can connect with that divine love. And when you accept and love yourself just as you are, a true partnership emerges between you and your heart and your spirit, and your body, and there's a connectedness that's experienced that can only be described as oneness. And in that oneness, that's when you begin to really experience love in all things. That's when you begin to experience peace and choose peace in all things and experience peace in all things. So you can see love in a beautiful landscape. You could see love in a cat. You can smell it, and you could smell love in a beautiful, fragrant flower, right? You can touch love when you hold your child's hand, and so on.
Yeah,
and that's peace.
That is peace, and that sounds, those things are just being in that present moment where you can experience that and feel peace in that moment is where I think a lot of people would like to be.
Yes, no doubt. And and don't let me forget, I have something. I have a free gift for all of your listeners today. I put together soul bread. Because that'll help people. That'll help your listeners really do these. It's called Soul Bread, Daily Affirmations That Feeds the Soul. And it's just 12 affirmations. You go on my website, lilysanders.live, just scroll down a little bit. You could download that. You just subscribe for Lily's e-notes and e-quotes, and you could get this free downloadable affirmation book, 12 affirmations. And when I tell you, it's a game changer. Affirmations are really super important. I mean that, that's why I did the book. It's really to help people journey into their soul and feed it with nutrient-rich affirmations. And, when we have this, we use these powerful affirmations, these thoughts that invite you to enter into the realization that you truly are worthy. That's what I want listeners to know today. You're truly worthy of having love and abundance in every single facet of your life. So I'd love people to get on the website, download it, use this book, as a tool. It's very empowering, and I suggest choosing one affirmation a day and affirming it in the present tense. That's really important, as often as possible throughout the day. So you just have to keep looking at that one affirmation and saying that to yourself, reciting it aloud, depending on where you are, whatever you're comfortable with, and say the affirmations with conviction. And when you've affirmed all 12 of them, then go back and reaffirm the ones that you really feel you didn't really completely believe or accept as your reality. And because that happens, like I'm saying this, but I don't really believe it. Well, then those are the ones you want to keep going back to. Because what I always say is what we cognize, we become. So, those 12 affirmations are pretty good. Love, judgment, regret, discipline, doubt, trust, surrender, transition, grief, forgiveness, fear, and purpose. It's a really practical tool, very practical way of learning how to do affirmations, real simple. It's not brain surgery, doesn't take a lot of time. I know everyone in this world, they don't like to take a lot of time doing things, but you are worth your own time. So, go for it.
Well, what a beautiful note to end on, Lily. I just love that. And could you share your website with us one more time?
Oh, sure. So my website is my name, lilysanders.live. It's LILYSANDERS.live. And you can find all my social media on there, but definitely navigate through there. Get that free download of Soul Bread. I'm also offering a 7 Gateways to Triumph, which is a really, really super great e-course, and it's the 7 Gateways. It underscores the teachings in Truth to Triumph. So you don't have to read Truth to Triumph to take the course. If you want, you can. You could do it side by side, but it really, the 7 Gateways are love, forgive, contribute, choice, shift, freedom, and hold. And it's just a really, something you could just do on your own. It's an e-course. It's really, really very empowering.
Oh, it sounds just awesome. I know I'm part of your community. I highly suggest everyone do the same. Lily, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you so much. And if anyone wants the book, Amazon.com. It's available international, and it's available on my website. Thank you for having me.
I love that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Lily. It's been such a pleasure to spend this time with you. My goodness, I know your book, Truth to Triumph, is going to resonate with so many people and help them along their path. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.